This is about the Fortuna High basketball team in 1952. Fortuna is a small town on the Northern California near the coast. And in that time, in the 1952 arena, Fortuna was about 1,700 people in a little small town, and the high school itself was a number of elementary schools. It was a unified school district where people came from, or kids came from all over the area. There were about 6 elementary schools that all attended the unified school district in Fortuna. In 1951, George Crandall was hired as a coach. He graduated from Oregon State University where he played, and he came to Fortuna. Now he met with the principal then of George Badura, and they met in a bar in Portland, Oregon, where George Badura hired George Crandall to become the heavyweight basketball coach in Fortuna.
This is George Crandall, coach of the Fortuna Huskies. My first task upon arrival to Fortuna in 1951 was to see the gym that I would be coaching in. From the outside, it did not appear to be a basketball building. However, once inside, sure enough, there was one basketball court. My first impression was positive to make this old vintage building come alive. By the end of the basketball season, the team did. As one of the team members, Dick Doris, said, when the game was on, Main Street Fortuna was bare of people. They were at the game. There was one factor in the gym that the team took advantage of. Above the free throw lines, there was a steel bar located 15 feet above the floor, which extended across the wall to help support the frame of the building. Consequently, with our outstanding defense, the opponents were often forced to take outside shots that often bounced off the bar. Being alert to the situation, it was normal for one of our players to grab the bounce off the bar and hit full bore down the floor for a layup score. As one might say, you have to take advantage of your home floor. Needless to say, our opponents for this season averaged only 27.5 points per game, and Fortuna averaged 46 points. That record should be hard to beat, and best of all, undefeated.
Of the 15 members, only 7 had no experience in playing high school basketball. And now are the 15 teammates that are part of this team. This initial photograph was taken out back of the old gymnasium, and this photo was taken inside the gymnasium with all 15 members, and the starting 5 was sitting in the front rows. First one is Wayne Baird, starting guard, Jerry Baker, forward, Jerry Batten, center, Cal Benton, all-conference, starting center, Jack Berger, guard, Troy Brownlett, guard, Daryl Branson, guard, Dick Doris, all-conference, guard, starting guard, Lon Duval, forward, Jim Ferguson, center, Lee Fielder, guard, George Ibarreta, starting forward, all-conference and star, Glenn Larson, forward, Mike McMillan, forward, and Marvin Stockel, starting forward, George Robinson, team manager, and of course, last but not least, the architect, George Crandall. There are many things that Coach Crandall emphasized, but it was always defense, teamwork, and conditioning, but always defense. Here are a list of some of the defenses that we had. And the interesting one is the 4-man zone and a 1-man man-to-man, which was to hold down scores. Now in the defense, right, Coach always taught us to keep your arm up, to have it in the face of the opponent, and be ready to go backwards in that time. Also, we had 2 outstanding rebounders in the form of Cal Benton and Marv Stockel that were told to put your elbows out, put your butt back so it's against the people, and you could catch the rebound and stop people. Now there are conditioning things that we always did. There are many exercises, but we can see this is called a duck waddle, where you squat down and you put one leg in front of the other. We used to do that to have races to get into the shower, and it was build strength in the legs for rebounding and running, and also speed, but it was one of the toughest exercises we ever had. Now, this team was reminiscent to me of the Hoosiers movie, because we were very much similar to Gene Hackman and Coach Crandall in this movie. If you've never seen it, you should watch it. But interesting thing to note, this is a picture of the team in that movie, and they were champions in 1952 in Indiana State. So maybe it's just a straight coincidence.
Jim Ferguson, good evening, and what a pleasure it is to be with my former teammates. I think that we learned a lot together. I cherish every moment I spent with you guys playing. I had a good time at it. I had a good coach, and I consider it a real honor to have been on this team. The habits we learned from Coach Crandall was to work hard and to stick together as a team, and I've never seen a finer coach that could teach fundamentals as well as George Crandall. And I recognize that, and I want to congratulate Coach Crandall for teaching us the fundamentals of basketball and the strategy. George Ibarreta, in my opinion, was the best basketball player to ever put on a suit in Fortuna. What I learned most from Coach Crandall, as I mentioned, was the strategy of the game, the fundamentals, and how to handle adversity for me. In the 70s, I worked in the west part of Africa for a year in the countries of Senegal and Gambia. And they formed, to get the street gangs off the streets at night, they formed basketball leagues. And there was a court right next to the hotel I was staying at. And I'd go out and watch these guys play basketball. And they were pretty good players, rugged players, and they noticed me and they said, "Would you like to join us?" And I learned from a college coach how to somewhat slam dunk a ball, and I tried that one time and I hurt from my toes to my ears. So I decided I better try to offer any coaching I could, and which they wanted me to do, so I started helping them coach and coach the team, and I taught them the three-man weave. And they asked me what that was called, and I said, we'll call it the Crandall weave. When I left Africa, they were still playing basketball, and they were still using that three-man weave. And they called it in French, which I can't pronounce, the Crandall weave. I think also one of the things I learned most from Coach Crandall was how to get in good shape. I think everybody played with Coach Crandall became physically conditioned to the best of their ability.
My name's Dick Doris, class of 53, and proud to be one of Coach's boys. Then Coach Crandall was hired to handle a heavyweight basketball team, and it was his first coaching job. We had a good nucleus of returning players, but we didn't have much height. What we lacked in that area we made up for with conditioning, speed, and defense. Always defense. We played in the old gym that some of us called the Cracker Box. If fans wanted a seat, they better get there early. The whole town turned out. The whole student body was there too, for all of our home games. You could have shot a cannon down Main Street and not hit anything. We started the season with 7 wins in a row, but I don't think we realized we had something special until we went up and played at Arcata. That night, I remember Cal Benton and Marv Stockel, who were 4 and 6 inches shorter than the Arcata center, just threw a blanket over him. George Ibarreta was popping in those looping shots from the left wing, and we led from start to finish. Now, the tournament in Berkeley at the Cal campus was a great experience to cap off an undefeated season. We'd never played on such a large stage. Harmon Gym was enormous to us. Someone, I don't remember who, maybe it was you, Fergie, I don't know, said, "You sure could stack a lot of hay in here." Now, even though we only won one of the 3 games down there, the local Berkeley paper voted ours the best coach team in the tournament. If you ever saw the movie Hoosiers, starring Gene Hackman, that was what high school basketball was like in Fortuna, just like in Indiana in 1952.
Because of the fantastic season we had, we were given an invitation to come down to the Northern California basketball tournament, the Tournament of Champions, to speak at the University of California in Berkeley. Now this shows a picture of the team as we were in 1952, getting ready to go down to Berkeley to play in that. And it's the first and only time that Fortuna High has been invited to this Tournament of Champions. Now, in going down to Berkeley, it was a large campus. In the Fortuna High, we were probably 600 students, and the Berkeley campus is in excess of 15,000 students. So it was really daunting for us. Now, the teams that were there to play were Fortuna, McClymonds, Monterey, Alameda, Albany, Clear Lake, Oroville, and George Washington. And when we came in to take a look at the court, compared to our little cracker box up at Fortuna, it was huge. It was just, and there was many thousands of people, and there was quite a contingency that came from Fortuna down. The thing was broadcast by the local radio stations in Eureka. Now, George Ibretta got sick before we went down there and could not play in 2 games. So he flew to Berkeley for the 2nd game. But here's some of the news headlines. It shows Ibretta flying in today to join the Huskies, and they may play against Oroville. Because of George's illness, the doctor only let him play 1 game. So the first game with no Ibretta, we lost to Albany by 1 point, and that was not good. The second game, we beat Oroville by 14 points, and George was only allowed to play 1/2 of the game. In the third game, George just played briefly, and we lost by 1 point, and 4 of the 5 starters fouled out, so we lost that game. The question I ask is, if we beat Oroville by 14 points and McClymonds beat Oroville by 8 points, could we have won the championship? McClymonds was a very, very gifted group of people. Bill Russell played for them, and in this game, Earl Robinson of Baseball Hall of Fame played also. Because of the way we played in Berkeley, the local newspaper stated we were the best coached team in the tournament. Here's one headline that we had from the local paper stating about what went on, and here's the second headline. The season was an outstanding season based upon the players and the wonderful coach that we had in the name of George Crandall.
Coach had the ability to, whatever we had to confront with different teams, to recognize who had the good end and who had to get out. So with that combination with our kids that were there, regardless whatever their first string, second string, he manipulated that damn scenario.